Grieving parents are shocked when they discover an unwelcome guest at their son's grave. Losing someone you love is one of the most wretched experiences. It's even worse when it happens to be your own child. When this couple lost their son, their world turned upside down. However, they'd soon come to find that the worst was yet to come when they came across an unwelcome guest at their son's grave. When Jacob and Tashana Armstrong got pregnant with their son, they had a big dream for him. They imagined all of the amazing things he would accomplish and the full life he would lead. However, none of that happened when McCade Armstrong died during the birthing process. However, this was only the beginning of their tragic story. It was during this tragic moment that Jacob and Tashana knew that they needed each other more than ever. That's the biggest lesson that they walked away with on April 14th, 2017. Throughout the pain, they had each other, and they were there for each other when they had to bury their son. Even though losing a baby during the birthing process is rare, it does still happen. Although the baby didn't even have a chance to live his life, the Armstrongs wanted to honor his memory. They hoped that other people would respect his memory as well. Although McCade had a very short life, the Armstrongs would never forget him. He would continue to live on through his memory. And at the very least, the family, including his siblings, would have a place to visit to remember him. However, they had no idea that his resting place would soon be disturbed. The Armstrongs never thought that they would lose a child. It was a nightmare that they never saw happening to them. With two beautiful children, they were looking forward to adding a third. Still, through the experience, they were able to grow closer to one another and their community. The couple continued to grow closer in their love, and they appreciated how much their own families were there for them. One day, the couple decided to visit their son at the Memorial Park Cemetery in Oklahoma. However, on that day, they noticed something very strange. Before heading to the cemetery, both Jacob and Tashana prepared their other children for the experience. The family went to visit the gravesite with heavy hearts, but with a peace of mind. But the family never expected that this visit would change how they viewed their own community. At his gravesite, many visitors left behind toys in the memory of McCade. Although McCade would never get to play with these gifts, they appreciated the sentiment. Many visitors left behind flags, pinwheels, and other little toys. However, he didn't get to enjoy them for long, and it wasn't for the reason you're thinking. Leaving behind little gifts at grave sites was a helpful way for both Jacob and Tashana to deal with the experience of losing their son. However, they soon noticed that something was missing every time they went back to visit the grave. It was starting to throw them off. It seems that both Jacob and Tashana had no idea that this specific cemetery was harboring a secret that they knew nothing about. Whenever they left toys or trinkets on their son's grave, they would disappear by their next visit. They had no idea what was going on. The couple was upset beyond words, and for good reason. This pinwheel doesn't mean a whole lot to the next person, but it does mean a lot to the person who placed it there, Tashana told Inside Edition. They began to worry and wonder about who or what could be taking their son's gifts. Grave robbing isn't something that happens quite often, especially not in small towns. Still, the grieving parents were devastated and were looking for an answer to what was going on. They immediately suspected that someone was stealing from the grave. In fact, Jacob was incredibly convinced that it was a person and not an animal that was taking his son's toys. The couple lamented on this for a while and knew that they couldn't let someone get away with this, so they came up with an idea to catch the culprit during the act. So the couple decided that they would have to catch the thief in the act by installing hidden cameras around their son's grave. The camera was set up just a few feet away from their son's grave, but that was just enough distance to keep the camera hidden, where they could pick up any suspicious activity. However, in order to make sure that the camera would stay hidden, Jacob made sure to buy a special one. He purchased one that would be undetected by anyone else in the cemetery. Jacob also didn't want to alarm any other families that there might be a thief afoot in the cemetery. The camera also had a camouflage exterior. This would ensure that no one else would notice its appearance, and it was also the kind of camera that wouldn't make any sound. Jacob knew that he had to figure out what was going on when he wasn't around at his son's grave. Jacob found the perfect place for the camera amongst the trees. Once the camera was set up, Jacob left. Since the camera could be controlled with a remote, he didn't have to worry about staying at the cemetery. The next day, both Jacob and Tashana showed up at the graveyard to review the footage of what the camera was able to pick up. It seems like their original hunch was true. It wasn't an animal stealing from them, but an actual person. The camera was able to pick up on a man that was stealing from their son's grave. However, the man wasn't just stealing from McCade's grave, he was also stealing from all of the nearby graves as well. The weirdest part was that the man was stealing all of the items in a relaxed fashion. The man continued to steal from the graves all around the area. He also didn't seem to look like he felt bad for what he was doing. After all, he was hurting so many different families. However, the thief had no idea that someone had been smart enough to film him in the act. When they looked over the footage again, the Armstrongs noticed that there were two men stealing. The footage, however, wasn't clear enough for them to be able to identify who these two men were. That's when Jacob decided to change the angle of the camera, hoping for a better shot the second time around. But would he be lucky again? It was hard enough for Jacob and Tashana to deal with the loss of their son. Having the distress of knowing that someone was stealing from his grave only added to their pain. They began to feel broken down and expressed their grievances to those around them. Soon, everyone was reaching out to the Armstrongs to let them know that they weren't alone. Other families that visited the cemetery reached out to the Armstrongs to help however they could. The cemetery even helped with releasing security camera footage. Still, none of this seemed to help as much as they wished it could. After changing the camera position again, the family decided to set bait up for the thieves. Then, they returned home to wait and see what would happen. But they had no idea if the thieves would show up again, or if the camera would capture detailed enough footage of these men. The Armstrongs were relieved when they saw that the new angle managed to pick up the identity of the two thieves. They were rejoiced and quickly brought the footage to their local police department. Unfortunately, the crime of taking things left out in cemeteries wasn't uncommon. The police department was aware of that, but luck was on the Armstrong side. The department's deputy chief, James Lodgton, had his own personal story that motivated him to help capture the culprits. It seems that Lodgton's own sister, who was stillborn, is buried near the couple's son. It would be hard to find a more defenseless victim than somebody buried out there, Lodgton said to Inside Edition. That's when Lodgton figured out how to find out the culprit's identity. The suspect's photos were published in the local newspaper, and soon enough one of them was identified. Alfred Boyer, a 77-year-old man, was arrested and charged with petty larceny. Both Jacob and Tashana wanted to confront the man, and when they did, they were shocked by his reaction. Jacob and Tashana confronted Alfred and let him know just how devastating what he did was to them. Alfred immediately apologized to them and said it wasn't something that he did often. But what about the second thief? The second thief was identified as Jo Fay Witt, a woman who was known around town for her criminal behavior. Unlike Alfred, she was not apologetic. She was arrested and charged with a misdemeanor count of petty larceny and a count of knowingly concealing stolen property. She was sentenced to 6 months in prison and a huge fine. Justice was finally served.